Welcome to From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers, a podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career, and hosted by Work Defined. Join our AI co-hosts as they dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Let's get your career started.
I want you to imagine something for a second. Like, really put yourself completely in this scenario.
Okay.
You have just experienced this massive, life-altering setback. Let's say you've lost your job. But, and this is key, it has absolutely nothing to do with your performance.
Right. So it's not your fault at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You didn't make a mistake. You weren't slacking off. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
The entire company you work for just, well, they financially collapsed and shut down.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's devastating.
It is. Your income is just gone overnight. So you are sitting in your living room and you're feeling this physical, just crushing weight of the world.
The panic.
Yes, the panic. You're calculating the anxiety of rent, bills, groceries, just the sheer terrifying cost of staying alive in a modern economy.
Which is astronomical right now, honestly.
Right. And in a moment of absolute vulnerability, you decide to just swallow your pride and reach out for help.
Which is hard enough to do on its own.
So hard. Yeah. You type up a message, a sincere plea for some financial assistance during this crisis, and you send it out. You hit send.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now imagine waking up the next morning, you grab your phone, hoping for, I don't know, maybe a kind word.
Or a small donation, yeah.
Yeah, a small donation. Or, honestly, maybe even just silence. Silence would be totally fine.
Just being ignored is the baseline expectation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But instead, you see that the person you messaged, who happens to be a multi-millionaire with tens of millions of followers, they didn't just ignore you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They took a screenshot of your vulnerable plea. They plastered it on a massive digital billboard, basically.
For millions of people to see.
Right. They put on this mocking, condescending voice and broadcast to the entire world that you were lazy.
That is just, wow.
Imagine millions of people watching a video where a celebrity tells you to stop begging and just go apply for a job, completely ignoring the reality of the economic situation you were trapped in.
Yeah.
Take a second to really feel the crushing weight of that humiliation.
I mean, it is a profoundly visceral scenario. And, the reason it hits so hard is because of the sheer scale of the exposure. It's the absolute stripping away of any dignity you might have been trying to maintain during a crisis.
Completely.
It's the kind of modern digital age nightmare that we usually only associate with high drama celebrity cancel culture.
Right, right.
We don't usually associate that level of public shaming with the mundane, everyday reality of just trying to find a job or survive a layoff.
Exactly. And that is exactly why we are here today. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are looking at a fascinating and, frankly, deeply unsettling piece of writing for our deep dive today.
It really is unsettling.
Yeah, it's an article published in College Recruiter. It's called James Charles Just Gave College Students a Brutal Lesson About the Job Market.
Such a good title.
It is. And for context for you listening, this isn't a pop culture commentary. This isn't like a gossip column about influencers.
Right. The author is Jim Stroud.
Exactly, Jim Stroud.
Okay.
And he's a career intelligence analyst, a labor market strategist who studies the actual mechanics of how people get hired.
And why they don't get hired.
Yeah, exactly. He looked at this viral, ugly internet moment and realized it wasn't an anomaly. It was a mirror.
It immediately signals a pivot. It takes something that the internet treated as fleeting tabloid fodder, just, influencer drama, and frames it as a structural critique of our economic reality.
Yes.
The premise here is that this isolated incident actually exposes the invisible architecture of the modern hiring process.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We are absolutely not here for celebrity gossip.
No, definitely not.
If you want a play-by-play of influencer apologies, there are a million other places on the internet for that.
Mm-hmm.
We are here to decode this incident, translate what it means for the corporate hiring world, and most importantly, equip you, the listener, with the tools you need.
The psychological and strategic armor, really.
Yes, the armor you need to actually survive this system. Because the job market is no longer functioning on the polite, orderly rules we were all taught in high school.
Oh, absolutely not. It is functioning on raw power dynamics. And if you don't understand the mechanics of those dynamics, you can get crushed by them without ever understanding why your resume was rejected or, why your emails are being ignored.
So let's start with the incident itself, the catalyst for all of this.
The sparking moment.
Right. We need to look at what actually happened, not as drama, but as a case study in power and leverage. So here are the baseline facts.
Okay.
There is a worker named Amber Lendo Vargas. She was an employee at Spirit Airlines.
Right.
And as we know, Spirit Airlines went through massive structural shutdowns, meaning Vargas lost her job.
Yeah.
Again, not for performance reasons, but because the corporate entity she worked for essentially dissolved her division.
Which is a crucial detail. I mean, this is a structural economic failure, completely outside of her control.
Right.
She didn't fail at her job. The job failed to exist.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So she is unemployed, she is struggling to make ends meet, and she creates a GoFundMe.
Which a lot of people do in that situation.
Yeah, it's really common now. So she decides to send a direct message, a DM, to James Charles, the massive beauty influencer.
Right.
She asks him to consider donating to her GoFundMe. Now, he does not ignore the message.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't just swipe it away and go about his day. He records a TikTok video.
Right.
In this video, he reads her direct message aloud in this really mocking tone. He explicitly calls her lazy.
Yeah, he really went there.
He did. And he suggests that she should be out applying for jobs instead of asking influencers or celebrities for financial support.
Wow.
He essentially took her moment of profound economic desperation and weaponized it for content.
And you know what's fascinating here is the immediate, almost reflexive assumption made about her character.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Look at the cognitive leap that happened in that moment. A request for help from an unemployed person was intercepted, and the brain immediately bypassed the concept of circumstance and landed squarely on character flaw.
Oh man, that is so true.
The logic was unemployment plus a request for mutual aid equals laziness.
Right, like she's just not trying hard enough.
Exactly. That leap in logic, that assumption of moral failure, is the absolute core of what we are going to be dissecting today.
Because it happens all the time.
Because it is the exact same leap in logic made by thousands of hiring managers every single day.
Wow. Yeah. And of course, the internet being the internet, the backlash to the video was immediate and intense.
Oh, people were furious.
They were horrified. The video spread like wildfire because it sounded ugly, entitled, and honestly, deeply familiar.
Yes. Familiar is the perfect word.
That word familiar is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It strikes a nerve because many of us have encountered that exact tone, just perhaps not from a celebrity with millions of followers.
Right. We've heard it from a boss or a recruiter.
Exactly. We've encountered it from people holding the keys to our livelihoods. So the backlash happens. The video is deleted and an apology is issued.
As they always are.
Right. The video is described by the creator as obnoxious, rude, privileged, and unnecessary. There's an acknowledgement that the choice existed to just ignore the message, but instead, the choice was made to publicly shame someone who was clearly struggling.
Right.
But here is the critical pivot in the story. The apology didn't fix it.
No, it didn't.
Amber Vargas actually rejected the apology.
Which is amazing.
It is. And her reasoning is an absolute masterclass in understanding modern reputation.
Let's hear it.
She said she did not accept it because the original humiliation, the mocking, the calling her lazy, the broadcast to millions of screens, that was entirely public.
Yes.
But a part of his apology was delivered to her privately through direct messages.
Right, and she is highlighting the mechanics of asymmetrical damage.
Ooh, asymmetrical damage. Tell me about that.
We really need to break down how this works. When someone with massive power and a massive platform inflicts harm publicly, the damage is exponential and permanent.
Yeah, it's out there forever.
It goes out into the ether, it gets clipped, downloaded, shared on Reddit, re-uploaded to YouTube.
Yeah.
People who saw the original mocking video might never, ever see the apology.
That's a great point.
Her digital footprint is now forever tied to this massive influencer calling her lazy. A private message in her inbox saying, "I'm sorry," does absolutely nothing to repair the public, structural damage done to her reputation.
Right.
The scale of the remedy does not match the scale of the injury.
I always think of this like a company publicly firing you in the town square.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Imagine they drag you out to the center of the city, hand a megaphone to the CEO, and the CEO lists all your alleged flaws to the entire town.
Right. Everyone's watching.
Everyone you know, everyone you might ever want to work for, all the neighboring businesses, they're all watching this spectacle.
It's awful.
And then a week later, that same company mails you a quiet, sealed, private apology letter to your house saying, Hey, we overreacted, our bad, hope you're well.
Like that fixes anything.
Exactly. Does that letter give you your reputation back? Does it fix the fact that the baker and the banker saw you humiliated?
Not at all. The private regret is completely asymmetrical to the public harm.
Right.
The damage has metastasized. Recognizing that and holding her ground is what elevates this from a simple internet spat into a profound lesson in power dynamics.
Yeah.
Public harm cannot be automatically repaired by private regret.
Okay, so this brings us to the big pivot. Why does this matter?
Right. What's the takeaway here?
Why should a college student or a recent grad or a 45-year-old middle manager who just got laid off care about a laid-off airline worker DMing an influencer?
Because it feels very niche at first glance.
It does, because realistically, most people listening to this deep dive are never going to DM a celebrity with a GoFundMe link.
Probably not.
But they absolutely will send a message to someone who has more power than they do.
Precisely. They're going to reach out to a recruiter, a hiring manager, an alumnus of their university.
A company founder on LinkedIn.
Yes, someone who happens to work at the dream company they're desperately trying to get into. The cast of characters changes, but the fundamental power dynamic, the person with the urgent need reaching out to the person with the keys to the kingdom, is identical.
And what are they asking for? They aren't asking for GoFundMe donations.
No, usually not.
They're asking for advice, informational interview, a referral. They're asking if a role they applied to 3 months ago is still open.
Right.
They are following up after being met with total, deafening silence. They're sending that one extra message because rent, student loans, family pressure, and career anxiety, those do not pause just because a stranger finds their outreach inconvenient.
No, they don't. And that is why this micro interaction perfectly mirrors the macro environment of the corporate hiring world.
Yeah.
The response in the viral video was extreme in public, sure, but the underlying attitude.
The attitude of disgust almost.
Exactly. The attitude that says, your desperation is annoying to me, your need is a sign of your laziness, and how dare you interrupt my day to ask for access.
Oof.
That attitude is incredibly common. It is the invisible current running beneath the surface of the modern job market.
This brings us to a massive concept. The death of the old script and the reality of the empathy gap. Let's talk about this old script.
Oh, the old script. I love talking about this.
Right. We are constantly told that students and job seekers are entering a labor market where the old script is breaking. But let's actually define what that was.
Okay.
The old script was basically the post-World War II American dream flowchart.
Right. Step 1, step 2.
You go to college, you get good grades, you use those grades to build a solid resume, you apply to open positions, you get hired, you work hard, and you climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah, it was presented as a perfectly linear, predictable equation. Input A yields output B.
Right.
Now, we have to acknowledge that this script was never actually as fair as advertised.
Oh, for sure.
It always heavily favored certain demographics, certain socioeconomic backgrounds, and people with built-in generational networks.
Of course.
But crucially, it at least sounded orderly. It gave the illusion of a functioning meritocracy.
Yes, the illusion.
If you follow the steps, you will be rewarded. The mechanism was comprehensible.
But I have to push back on this narrative that things are just getting a bit messy now.
Okay, how so?
Well, if that orderly script is completely broken, what are we actually left with? We hear the term messy news script, but messy feels like a massive understatement.
It's a bit too polite.
Way too polite. If entry-level jobs now require 3 to 5 years of experience, and if algorithms are filtering out resumes before human eyes ever even glance at them, hasn't the fundamental fairness of career building completely collapsed?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel messy. It feels completely rigged against the individual.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are touching on the exact systemic despair that defines the modern hiring landscape.
Systemic despair, wow.
Yeah. The scale of competition has fundamentally mutated, and we need to understand why and how that happened.
Okay, lay it on me.
When you graduate today or when you re-enter the market after a layoff, you aren't just competing with the person sitting next to you. You are competing against highly experienced veteran workers who were just laid off in the latest round of tech or corporate downsizing and who are willing to take a massive title demotion and pay cut just to keep their family's health insurance.
Right, so the true entry-level job is being scooped up by someone with 7 years of senior experience who was acting out of pure survival instinct.
Exactly.
Which explains why entry-level now demands 3 to 5 years of experience.
No.
The bottom rung of the ladder has literally been sawed off.
It has been sawed off and burned,
Right.
but it's not just humans driving this inflation of requirements.
Oh.
No, we have to look at the mechanics of automation.
Wow, right.
Why do companies demand so much experience for basic roles? Because the truly basic roles, basic data entry, simple administrative task management, low-level coding, those have been largely automated by SaaS platforms and internal software.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. The things you used to do in your first year on the job to, learn the ropes are now done by a computer.
Right.
So the entry-level human is now expected to step in and immediately do the complex synthesis that used to take 3 years to learn.
So you're fighting veterans for entry-level roles that are actually mid-level roles in disguise.
Exactly.
And on top of that, you are fighting the machines directly. Let's talk about the applicant tracking systems, the ATS, because this is the invisible wall everyone hits.
Oh, the ATS. It is perhaps the most misunderstood and brutal mechanism in the modern job hunt.
Honestly, it terrifies me.
It should. Originally, back in the 90s and early 2000s, these were basically just digital filing cabinets.
Just a place to store PDFs.
You're right. But today, they are complex algorithmic gatekeepers.
Yeah.
When you submit a resume, it doesn't go to an inbox for a human to read. It goes into a database where it is immediately parsed, stripped of its formatting, and analyzed.
Analyzed for what, exactly?
For keyword density, semantic relevance, and specific Boolean search parameters set by a recruiter. And here's the kicker. That recruiter might not even fully understand the technical requirements of the role they are hiring for.
Oh, man. So if a company is hiring a project manager, and the recruiter sets the ATS to filter for the exact phrase, agile methodology, but your resume says managed agile workflows, the machine might just bin your application entirely.
Exactly. It just bins it. Because it lacks the precise semantic match.
Just over one word.
Over one word. And it goes deeper. Many ATS platforms use knockout questions or automatic disqualifiers based on employment gaps.
Knockout questions.
Yeah. If the machine detects a 6-month gap in your employment history, regardless of whether it was due to a global pandemic, taking care of a sick parent, or a company shutdown like Spirit Airlines, the algorithm flags you as a risk.
And then what?
It automatically moves you to the rejection pile. A human being never even knows you applied.
That is terrifying. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the applicants are fighting back with their own technologies.
Oh, it's the arms race, yes.
Right. The market is now flooded with AI-assisted applicants. You have people using generative AI to perfectly customize their resumes and cover letters at mass scale.
Yeah, it's wild.
They can apply to 500 jobs a day using scripts that automatically pull the keywords from the job description and inject them into their resume to trick the ATS.
It is an absolute arms race of algorithms. You have robots writing resumes specifically designed to be read by robots.
Which is just bizarre when you think about it.
It is. And it floods the zone with synthetic perfection, which makes it even harder for a genuine human-written resume to ever surface.
Right.
You are trapped inside an ATS maze that is designed to reject you before a human being even knows your name.
Wow.
And at the same time, you are told to network, to build a personal brand, to publish articles online, to learn AI, to take unpaid internships, to get the experience required for the entry-level job.
It's too much.
To create portfolios, and somehow through all of this remain mentally healthy and positive. The sheer cognitive load is staggering.
So in a system this automated, this crowded, and frankly, this deeply chaotic, reaching out directly for help, sending a DM, an email, a LinkedIn message to a real human being, that seems like the absolute only logical strategy left.
It really is.
If the front door is guarded by an algorithmic bouncer that inherently hates you, you have to try to find a window.
You have to bypass the system.
Right, you have to bypass the system.
Right.
But, as the viral incident showed us, direct outreach is incredibly risky. You are exposing your neck. You are revealing your need. And this exposes a brutal reality. The empathy gap.
Ah, yes, the empathy gap.
Tell me about this.
The empathy gap is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when people acquire power, wealth, or security. It is a documented cognitive shift.
A physical shift in how they think.
Yes. When you have money, when you have a massive network, when you have impenetrable job security, your brain fundamentally forgets what the visceral panic of scarcity feels like.
It just forgets.
It's very easy to look down from the mountain and say, well, if they just work smarter, if they just optimize their resume better, they'd be up here too.
Right. It's the classic pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality.
Exactly. They begin to view unemployment or struggle as a personal moral failure rather than an economic circumstance. They lose the ability to empathize with the friction of being at the bottom.
Which brings us to the most infuriating part of this whole dynamic, the double standard of power. Let's look at the hustle versus begging dichotomy.
This is so important.
The job market is absolutely full of people who quietly believe desperation is a character flaw.
Yeah.
They don't broadcast it on TikTok, but they embed it in the DNA of their corporate culture.
This raises an important question about how we fundamentally define persistence in a professional setting.
Okay, let's hear it.
There is a profound hypocrisy here, driven entirely by sociology and perceived status. Let's walk through a scenario.
Sure.
Let's say a well-connected, highly polished applicant, maybe they went to an Ivy League school, maybe their parents play golf with the VP of sales.
Okay, I can picture them.
They email a hiring manager, they don't hear back, and they follow up a week later. Then they follow up again. Maybe they even guess the CEO's email address and send a direct pitch.
So if I'm the hiring manager, I look at that and say, wow, look at the hustle. Look at the absolute drive on this kid. That's a go-getter. They don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
We need that kind of aggressive energy on our team.
Exactly. The persistence is framed as a virtue. It is celebrated as hustle.
Right.
Now, let's take the exact same scenario. An applicant who is currently unemployed, maybe they went to a state school, maybe they have a visible gap in their resume because they were laid off.
Okay, totally different background.
Right. They have no internal connections. They send the exact same email. They follow up a week later. They follow up again. What does the hiring manager say?
Oh, I know this one. They say they are so annoying. They are practically begging. It's a huge red flag. They seem desperate. Why can't they take a hint?
Yes.
The exact same behavior, the exact same text in the email, the exact same frequency of follow-up is interpreted entirely differently based purely on the perceived status and leverage of the person sending it.
That is the cognitive bias of status.
It's maddening.
It really is. And the professional world often enforces this quietly. They say it through the ATS that automatically bins the resumes from state schools in favor of target universities.
Yeah.
They say it by ignoring emails from people without mutual connections. They say it by mocking eager, slightly awkward candidates in private Slack channels.
Which happens all the time.
The influencer just happened to say the quiet part loudly on a video. The corporate world says it silently by ghosting you.
So if you have connections, it's called hustle. If you don't have status, it's called begging.
That's the sad reality.
It is a wildly unfair system that penalizes the exact people who actually need the opportunity the most.
Yeah.
Honestly, recognizing this unfair double standard can be incredibly discouraging for you listening right now.
It can feel hopeless.
It feels like the game is completely rigged, the referees are blind, and you're being forced to play uphill in the mud. So, how do you operate within this broken system without losing your confidence or your dignity?
That is the pivotal question.
How do you survive a system that desperately wants to view your need as a flaw?
If we just stop at the diagnosis, it's pure nihilism. We need a prescription.
Yes, please. Give us the prescription.
We need strategic rules of engagement for navigating this landscape. This is the psychological armor you have to put on every morning before you open your laptop.
Let's weed through these strategies because they are crucial. The first major shift is realizing that asking for help is not a weakness.
Absolutely not.
You cannot let the viral, mocking version of the world shame you into silence. We were all taught this old phrase, good things come to those who wait. Or, if you put your head down and work hard, your work will speak for itself.
Which is such terrible advice now.
In this job market, that is basically a lie. Most opportunities are not found by quietly waiting your turn in line. They require visible, persistent effort.
Opportunities come through friction. They come through outreach, introductions, referrals, and uncomfortable follow-ups.
Yeah.
You have to make yourself visible to the system, and a massive part of this strategy is accepting that friction is inevitable.
Meaning you're going to get rejected?
Yes, some people will ignore you. Some will judge you. Some will be outright rude. But you cannot let the potential for a poor reaction invalidate your legitimate need to ask for access.
That's powerful.
You cannot silence yourself to protect the comfort of the gatekeepers. If you don't ask, the answer is permanently no.
But I want to push back on this because it sounds great in theory, The emotional toll is massive.
It is exhausting.
When you are being rejected constantly, it hurts. Which brings up this incredibly profound concept from Stroud's article. Desperation is not a character flaw.
I love that line.
Losing a job, struggling after graduation, moving back home, these do not mean you failed as a person. They mean you're dealing with economic circumstances. But how do you actually internalize that? There's a quote we need to look at. Your situation is data. It is not your identity.
That concept is essentially cognitive behavioral therapy for the job seeker.
CBT for job hunting.
Exactly. It is the ultimate shield against the crushing weight of systemic rejection. Let's break down the mechanics of rejection.
Okay, let's break it down.
When the ATS rejects you, when the recruiter ghosts you after 3 rounds of interviews, when the hiring manager implies you aren't good enough, the natural human biological reaction is to internalize that threat.
Right.
Your amygdala fires up and you think, I am a failure, I am unemployable, I am fundamentally worthless.
Right, because our brains are wired to equate social rejection with physical danger.
Exactly. Evolutionary biology.
If the tribe rejects you, you starve. So when the company rejects you, it feels like a threat to your existence.
Precisely. You have to actively intercept that biological response. You must separate your current economic state from your inherent human value.
Which is so hard.
It's incredibly hard, but think of it this way. Your bank account being low is a data point. Your resume having a 6-month gap is a data point.
Yeah.
The fact that your company shut down is a data point. None of those data points constitute your identity, your intelligence, your creativity, or your worth as a human being.
Right, they're just facts about the current moment.
If you can internalize that your situation is merely data, you protect your mental health against a system that is inherently designed to reject you 99% of the time.
I hear that, but let me challenge you on it.
Go for it.
It is incredibly easy to say, my empty bank account is just data, when you're sitting at a comfortable studio.
That is fair. Very fair.
It is incredibly hard to say that when rent is due in 3 days and you've been ghosted by 50 companies. Isn't it human nature to take that personally? How do you actually practice this detachment when the stakes are literally your survival?
It's an incredibly fair challenge. It is brutally hard. It is a daily active practice, not a switch you flip.
Okay, so what does the practice look like?
When the rejection email comes in, the practice is to literally say out loud, they rejected a piece of paper, they rejected an algorithm summary of me, they did not reject me because they do not know me.
Oh, I like that, saying it out loud.
You have to build a firewall between your professional output and your core self. If you don't, the market will grind your self-esteem into dust, and you won't have the energy required to send the next application. It is a survival mechanism.
Okay, so if we accept that we have to make visible effort, and we've built that emotional firewall, how do we actually do the outreach without annoying the person holding the keys?
Right. Execution matters.
Because there is a massive difference between asking for help and asking carelessly. We need to talk about emotional labor.
Yes, Rule 3. Learn how to ask well.
You have to be thoughtful, specific, keep it short, show you've done your homework, and make the request easy to answer. You cannot demand emotional labor from strangers.
This is where strategy meets empathy. You are asking for a favor from someone who has power, yes, but who is also likely very busy, overwhelmed by their own KPIs, and constantly bombarded with requests.
Well, I always think of this like asking a stranger for directions on the street.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Let's say you are completely lost in a new city. You don't walk up to a stranger, hand them the keys to your rental car, slide into the passenger seat, and say, I'm lost. Can you physically drive me to my destination?
Yeah, they would call the cops.
Exactly. That is demanding way too much labor. It's invasive. They'll run away from you. Instead, you walk up, you are polite, and you say, excuse me, I know you're walking, but I'm trying to find the central library. Do you know if I should go north or south on this street?
Right.
You make the request incredibly easy for them to fulfill. It takes them 2 seconds and 0 calories to point north.
That is a phenomenal analogy because it perfectly illustrates the concept of reducing friction.
Reducing friction.
You are reducing the friction of helping you to absolute zero. If you DM a CEO or a VP on LinkedIn and say, I just graduated, I'm unemployed, I need a job, can you help me? You are handing them the keys and asking them to drive you to the destination.
Which they won't do.
You are demanding that they take an hour out of their day to evaluate your skills, scour their internal system for an open headcount, figure out who the hiring manager is, and act as your unpaid agent. They will absolutely ignore you.
Because it's overwhelming.
Exactly. But if you DM them and say, "Hi, I saw your recent article on Q3 market trends. I am an aspiring data analyst trying to break into the industry. Based on your experience, would you recommend I focus my portfolio projects on Python or SQL? One sentence is all I need. Thank you for your time."
Oh, that's so good. One sentence is all I need.
You will ask them to point north. It's specific. It shows you did your homework and know who they are, and it's incredibly easy to answer. They can reply on their phone while waiting in line for coffee.
But let's unpack the tension here.
Yeah.
How does a job seeker balance these strategies?
What do you mean?
Well, we just established that we need visible effort, and we have to push through the silence and follow up. But we also just established that we cannot demand emotional labor or be annoying. Where's the line between being persistently visible and becoming an emotional burden to a stranger?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the line is drawn entirely by the value you offer in the interaction, even if that value is just brevity, respect, and low friction.
Right.
Visible effort is about volume and consistency across a wide network, reaching out to 20 different people, following up once politely. Demanding emotional labor is about the weight of the individual request.
So it's about the ask itself.
Exactly. You can knock on 20 doors, but you can only ask for a glass of water, not a 3-course meal.
Oh, I like that.
Persistence is fine. Entitlement is the burden. You must never confuse professionalism with silence. A clear, respectful ask is part of career building. But the moment you feel owed a response, you've crossed into entitlement. That makes total sense. And this ties directly into understanding how power changes how messages are received. We talked about the hustle versus begging dynamic and anticipating cognitive biases. You have to understand these power dynamics strategically, not as a defeat.
Right. Don't look at the unfairness of the system and say, well, it's rigged, so I give up. I'm taking my ball and going home.
Yeah, that doesn't help you get a job.
Look at it and say, okay, the person I am messaging has more access, more security, and more options than I do. They might view my request through a lens of privilege. They might have the empathy gap.
Right, you're factoring in their blind spots.
Exactly. Understanding that allows you to tailor your message. You anticipate their biases. You make your message so sharp, so frictionless, and so professional that you bypass their internal filter that flags desperation.
Wow.
You don't let their power make you feel smaller. You use your understanding of their psychology to outmaneuver them. And there is a long game here too. Your reputation is built on how you treat those with less leverage. This is a lesson for the future. Today, you might be the one sending the DM, trying to get someone to point north.
Right.
But 10 years from now, you might be the one holding the keys.
It's the golden rule of networking, applied longitudinally.
Yeah.
The way you respond to someone who needs something from you tells the absolute truth about your character faster than any meticulously crafted personal brand statement ever will.
For sure.
If you remember how much it hurt to be ignored when you're at the bottom, you will be a profoundly better leader when you reach the top.
Which is such a sharp, necessary critique of corporate culture right now.
Oh, it really is.
Everyone has a meticulously crafted personal brand on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Everyone is posting thought leadership about empathy, vulnerability, and servant leadership.
Right.
But how do they actually treat the desperate applicant in their inbox?
Usually with silence, annoyance, or an automated rejection from a no-reply email address.
Yeah.
Which perfectly sets up the final pivot we need to make today.
Yes. So these strategies are fantastic armor for the applicant. They teach you how to survive, how to reframe rejection as data, how to ask strategically without demanding emotional labor.
All crucial tools.
But what about the people sitting on the other side of the desk? What about the massive corporations? What lesson does this viral moment hold for the gatekeepers themselves? This brings us to the corporate mirror.
We cannot let the HR and talent acquisition professionals off the hook here.
Definitely not.
This story should deeply bother anyone working in recruiting or corporate leadership. Not because recruiters are making TikToks mocking applicants, most aren't that foolish, but because the underlying behavior, the casual dismissal of human need, the flexing of asymmetrical power, has a professional version that happens 1,000,000 times a day in corporate America.
The professional versions of that mocking video are everywhere, and they read like a horror story for job seekers.
Oh, they really do.
Let's list them out. Ignored applications that sit in a portal for 6 months.
Yeah.
Interview processes that are just abandoned halfway through. They make you do 5 rounds of interviews, take a personality test, build a customized presentation that takes you 40 hours of unpaid labor, and then they literally never speak to you again.
Ghosting after a final round is just cruel.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Vague, automated rejections that provide zero feedback. Lowball salary offers that intentionally exploit a candidate's obvious desperation.
Yes, taking advantage of the layoff.
Right.
Yeah.
Corporate jokes in private Slack channels about desperate applicants. All of this comes from the exact same emotional neighborhood as the influencer mocking the unemployed airline worker.
This raises an important question. Why does this happen so frequently and so systemically in corporate culture?
Why is it so normal?
Why is it normalized to treat applicants with such profound disrespect? The answer is chillingly simple, and it goes back to our core theme.
Power dynamics.
The power imbalance is the point. The hiring manager has the open role, the salary, the health insurance. The recruiter has the access to the hiring manager. The candidate simply has the need.
Yep.
That massive imbalance creates a dynamic where basic human respect is viewed as optional by the party with the power. They treat applicants poorly simply because there are no immediate consequences for doing so.
And it highlights this incredible, massive irony in the corporate world today. Companies spend absolute fortunes on employer brand.
Oh, millions of dollars.
They hire expensive PR agencies. They make slick, high-production videos about their amazing collaborative culture. They talk about their core values, their ping-pong tables, their commitment to mental health and work-life balance.
Right, the whole song and dance.
But then, their actual talent acquisition pipeline, the very first interaction a human being has with their brand, treats applicants like disposable noise.
Exactly. The marketing says, we care about people, but the infrastructure says, you are a nuisance until proven profitable.
Oof. A nuisance until proven profitable. That's bleak.
It is. But the landscape of accountability is shifting rapidly. In the viral incident, the unemployed worker was handed a megaphone because of the sheer fame of the person who mocked her.
Right, the internet rallied around her.
The asymmetrical damage was reversed. Now, most job candidates do not get a viral moment. They don't get 1 million people defending them on Twitter when a company ghosts them after 6 interviews.
But they do have their own megaphones now.
They do.
Today's candidates are highly connected. They have Glassdoor. They have Reddit communities like Roar/recruiting hell. They have LinkedIn, Slack groups, university alumni networks, private group chats.
Word travels fast.
If a company's hiring process is toxic,
Yeah.
if they ghost people after forcing them to do free work, if they treat applicants like garbage, that information spreads. The internet forced accountability onto the influencer. He apologized because the internet made him.
But most corporate gatekeepers never face that kind of sudden, concentrated public reckoning.
Right. There's no viral apology video from HR.
Exactly. They don't wake up to 1 million angry comments. They just quietly move on to the next resume in the stack, completely unaware of the silent, compounding damage they're doing to their company's reputation. And this leads to a massive realization for companies. Candidate experience is not a marketing slogan. It is exactly what people say about you when they needed a fair shot and you made them feel small.
Let that sink in. It is exactly what people say about you when they needed a fair shot and you made them feel small.
It's the truth.
You cannot buy a PR campaign expensive enough to fix that kind of structural, grassroots reputational damage. When candidates feel small, when they feel exploited, they talk. And eventually the best talent, the people who actually have options, will simply refuse to apply.
It's a dire warning to corporations that the empathy gap isn't just cruel on a human level, it's fundamentally bad business. It rots your talent pipeline from the inside out.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here today. We've mapped out the brutal, messy reality of the new job market, from the algorithmic walls of the ATS to the inflation of entry-level requirements.
That's a lot to process.
We've examined the psychological armor and strategic rules you need to survive it, reframing your situation as data and asking for directions instead of a ride. And we've looked at the stark warning issued to the corporate gatekeepers holding the keys.
Yeah.
Let's pull all of this together and figure out what you, the listener, should actually do tomorrow morning when you open your laptop.
The synthesis of all this analysis is really a call to strategic persistence, deeply insulated by self-worth.
Strategic persistence.
The job market is going to test you. It is going to test your confidence in ways you might not be prepared for. There will be days when the algorithmic silence makes you feel entirely invisible, and days where the automated rejections make you feel vastly underqualified.
That's inevitable.
You have to remember that the market inherently rewards people who already have the polish, the insider knowledge, and the existing networks.
Which is exactly why you have to keep reaching out. You have to create your own friction.
Yeah.
You are allowed to ask for help. You are allowed to follow up on that email. You're allowed to need guidance from an alumnus. You are allowed to try and network before you feel 100% confident in your personal brand or your resume format.
But you must do it with care. You must be specific, respectful, and concise. Show your effort. Make it easy for the gatekeeper to point north.
Right.
And most importantly, and this is the absolute core of the message, if you do all of that, if you play the game perfectly and they still respond with cruelty or mockery or deafening silence, do not internalize it.
Do not let it become your identity.
Exactly. Do not let their empathy gap become your identity crisis. Do not confuse their lack of empathy with your lack of worth. Needing help does not make you lazy. Treating people like they're beneath you does.
Wow. So what does this all mean? I want to pull on one last thread before we go. A provocative thought to leave you with, looking toward the future. We talked about how job seekers today are competing against AI-assisted applicants who can customize resumes at scale, feeding into automated applicant tracking systems. We have robots writing resumes specifically for robots to read.
Right, the synthetic loop.
The front door to the job market is becoming entirely synthetic. It's sterile, it's keyword optimized, it's completely devoid of humanity.
It's an escalating arms race of algorithms, where the human being is almost entirely abstracted out of the process until the final round.
Right. So if the front door is becoming entirely synthetic, completely guarded by AI, maybe the back door, the direct message, the personal email, the slightly awkward, unpolished LinkedIn note is actually the only human thing left.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
Think about the viral incident that started this whole conversation. Amber Vargas sent a purely human, slightly desperate, highly personal direct message.
It bypassed all the systems.
It did. Yes, it was risky. Yes, she got burned publicly. But in a future where every single applicant looks perfectly polished because ChatGPT wrote their cover letter and optimized their resume, does the messy, unpolished human act of reaching out directly actually become the only authentic way left to break through the noise? Wow. If everyone is artificially perfect on paper, is begging, or whatever you want to call vulnerable direct networking, just the future of how human beings will actually find each other in a robotic job market, is the risk of being mocked, the price we will all eventually have to pay just to prove to a hiring manager that we are real.
It's a staggering thought. As the systems become more synthetic and impenetrable, vulnerability and visible effort might become the ultimate unfakeable currency of connection.
Right.
It's dangerous, it requires armor, but it might be the only tool left that a machine simply cannot replicate.
Something to mull over the next time you are staring at a blank email draft to a hiring manager. Wonder if you should hit send. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It has been a fascinating exploration of a very complex, evolving reality.
Remember the town square. Remember that the megaphone is loud, but your situation is just data. Keep asking for directions. We will see you next time.
This has been From Dorms to Desks, job hunting tips for those early in their careers. A podcast brought to you by College Recruiter job search site, which believes that every student and recent grad deserves a great career. Each episode, we dive into tips, tricks, and insights that will help you land your next part-time, seasonal, internship, or entry-level job. Subscribe to this podcast for free now, so you don't miss an episode, and visit www.collegerecruiter.com to find your next great job.